Imagine scrolling through Reddit, looking at a completely normal discussion. Maybe it's about history, maybe it's about science, maybe it's about something completely forgettable. And then you notice a comment. At first, it doesn't make any sense. It's talking about secret government experiments, strange biological structures, dead bodies, things called flesh interfaces. The comment feels completely disconnected from the conversation around it, almost like it was posted in the wrong place. So you click the username, and that's when everything changes. Because this wasn't one strange comment. There were dozens of them, scattered across Reddit like fragments of a hidden manuscript. And when people started connecting those fragments together, they realized something almost impossible. Someone wasn't using Reddit to discuss a story. They were using Reddit to hide one. An entire universe buried in plain sight. And somehow, millions of people walked past it without noticing. Until one username started appearing everywhere. _9 mother 9 horse. 9 eyes 9. That name sounds less like a username and more like something generated by a broken machine. But in 2016, it became one of the strangest rabbit holes Reddit has ever produced. Because unlike most internet mysteries, this one wasn't hidden behind passwords or secret websites or encrypted files. It was hidden inside Reddit itself. And that's what made it so fascinating. The platform wasn't hosting the story. The platform was part of the story. To understand why people became obsessed with this account, you have to imagine discovering it the way readers did. Not all at once, but piece by piece, fragment by fragment, comment by comment. Imagine reading a completely normal thread, then suddenly finding a long reply describing bizarre experiments, government facilities, impossible events. The comment feels like somebody accidentally pasted part of a science fiction novel into the wrong place. Most people ignored it. Some laughed. Others assumed it was spam. But a few people became curious because the writing was strangely compelling. So they clicked the profile and found another comment, then another, then another. Every comment seemed connected to a larger narrative, a narrative nobody could fully see yet. And that was the genius of it. If the author had simply posted a giant story, most people would have ignored it. But by scattering pieces throughout Reddit, the story transformed into a treasure hunt. Readers weren't consuming the story, they were excavating it. Every discovery felt earned. Every new comment felt like uncovering evidence. And the deeper people dug, the stranger things became. Because this wasn't just one storyline, it was an entire universe. A universe filled with secret experiments, conspiracies, historical events, psychological horror, and something called the flesh interface. This object became one of the central mysteries of the entire rabbit hole. Depending on which fragment you read, the flesh interface appeared as a portal, a biological structure, a machine, a doorway. Something built from human bodies, something connected to experiments involving LSD, something tied to realities that should not exist. The more readers learned about it, the less it made sense. But somehow, that only made it more compelling. Because confusion creates curiosity, and curiosity creates obsession. Soon, people started noticing that the story wasn't staying in one place. The account was posting across completely different discussions: history, politics, science, random conversations. The fragments seemed scattered at random, but they weren't. Every piece expanded the universe. Every piece revealed another layer. And suddenly, the rabbit hole became much larger than one Reddit account. People began organizing, cataloging, archiving, trying to reconstruct the hidden narrative. Entire communities formed around understanding what they were reading. Readers started collecting screenshots, tracking timelines, creating theories, building maps of relationships between characters. And for the first time, something strange became obvious. This wasn't a random internet prank. The amount of planning was simply too large. The references connected. The recurring concepts returned. The timeline remained surprisingly consistent. Everything pointed toward one conclusion. Someone had spent an enormous amount of time constructing this world, and they were hiding it in plain sight. But the deeper readers went, the more unsettling the universe became. Because the story connected bizarre topics that seemed completely unrelated. MK Ultra, Vietnam, Elizabeth Bathory, the Manson family, LSD experiments, humpback whales, government secrets. At first glance, those things shouldn't fit together. But inside the universe, they did. And that's when people realized they weren't reading isolated stories anymore. They were looking at pieces of something much larger, something that felt less like a novel and more like an alternate reality hiding beneath our own. At this point, the story had escaped the comments section. What started as a few strange posts was becoming an internet phenomenon. Entire communities appeared almost overnight. People built dedicated spaces to archive every fragment they could find, organizing timelines, decoding terminology, tracking recurring characters, trying to answer one increasingly important question. Who was behind this? Because by now, the scale was becoming impossible to ignore. Within weeks, readers had already uncovered tens of thousands of words, an entire hidden mythology. And somehow, it was still growing. The universe wasn't finished. People were watching it expand in real time, and that created something unusual. Most stories move in one direction. The author writes, the audience reads. But this worked differently. The audience became explorers. Every reader had a different entry point. Nobody experienced the story the same way, because the internet itself had become the book. And that may have been the most brilliant part of the entire project. The story wasn't hidden on some obscure website. It was hiding inside one of the largest platforms on Earth, like camouflage, like a strange organism blending into its environment. And the environment was Reddit. Then something even stranger happened. Major publications started paying attention. The Verge wrote about it. Gizmodo wrote about it. The Guardian wrote about it. Journalists became fascinated by the same thing readers were noticing. This wasn't simply a story. It was a new way of telling stories. Because traditionally, fiction announces itself. A novel tells you it's a novel. A movie tells you it's a movie. A game tells you it's a game. But this project never introduced itself. It simply existed, hidden among millions of ordinary conversations, which created a strange psychological effect. Every discovery felt personal. Like you weren't consuming content, you were uncovering evidence. And humans love uncovering evidence. We don't just enjoy answers, we enjoy finding answers. By this point, the internet had become obsessed. People debated theories, argued over interpretations, analyzed recurring symbols, tried to predict future developments. The universe had become larger than its creator, and eventually, the creator revealed something surprisingly human. Before the rabbit hole existed, literary agents had ignored his work. Publishers weren't interested. The traditional path wasn't working. So instead of sending stories to publishers, he smuggled one directly into the internet. And it worked. The attention exploded. Communities formed. Journalists noticed. People became obsessed. The very thing that was being ignored suddenly became impossible to ignore. But the most fascinating part isn't the success story. It's what the project revealed about the internet itself. Because when people hear the phrase online universe, they usually imagine a game, a website, a virtual world. But this was different. The universe didn't live on a platform. The universe lived inside the behavior of the platform, inside comments, inside discussions, inside ordinary conversations. The story used Reddit as its nervous system, and that realization leads to a strange question. If a complete fictional universe could hide inside Reddit for years, how many other worlds are still out there? Entire communities, entire histories, Entire realities, living quietly beneath the surface, waiting for someone curious enough to discover them, waiting for someone to click the right profile, read the right comment, or follow the right rabbit hole. And maybe that's the strangest part of this entire story. The internet isn't just a collection of websites, it's an ecosystem. And ecosystems can hide worlds. Some are fictional, some are collaborative, some are artistic experiments. But all of them exist alongside ordinary reality, usually unnoticed, hidden in plain sight. Which means somewhere, right now, another universe might already exist online. And nobody has found it yet.